I'm Mario Martinez Jr., CEO and founder of Ingresso, and we are the creators of flymessage.io, the free personal writing assistant and text expander application. On each episode of this podcast, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you grow your sales numbers at scale. So, get your pen and paper or iPad and keyboard and start taking notes as you're now listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast. And I'm your host, Mario Martinez Jr. And today I come bearing an amazing gift for you all today. And that is my friend, Elyse Archer. She is the CEO and founder of She Sells. That's right. You heard that right. She Sells. And by the way, if you're watching live video right now of me speaking, it looks like I'm moving my whole body instead of my neck. I know, it's very painful. Yes, that's what happened. That's what's happening right now. I literally woke up with a horrible kink neck, and I can barely move my neck left or right. So if it looks like I am like a robot, doing the robot, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. That having been said, Elyse, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh my gosh, Mario, I'm so excited to be here. You and I are going to make a great pair today because I was laughing with you in the pre-chat that this is like the first day my voice is back after having been on the road speaking last week. So you've got the full body stuck turtle thing going on. I've got I don't know what kind of voice going on, but we're going to do it. I think we're still going to have a great conversation.
Well, if you hadn't told me, I don't know if I would have ever known that it was messed up, but I can slightly hear it, and all my listeners will still love you anyways, because you sound great. It's good enough. But if I start breaking out with the robot, you know exactly what's going on. Or
I'll do it with you.
I'll do it with you. We'll do it together. Don't make me laugh so hard. I'm hurting my neck. Oh, wait. Well, this is great. So listen, Elyse, I always ask everybody at the beginning of the show, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little about your background, She Sells, and then I've got a very special question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for being here. This is so fun. As you mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of She Sells. By the way, really good job on pronouncing that. A lot of people get that messed up, which I didn't think about when I was naming the brand. So good job on that. In addition to that, I am a mom of 2 little kids. I've got 2 boys under 4. So that's exciting and an adventure. Wife to a husband who's in his first year of medical school. He went back a little later in life. So we're doing that right now. So life is full and exciting, and there is literally never a dull moment. But it is a blast.
Wow, 4-year-olds. Are they twins?
No, so it's 2 boys under 4. So we've got a 1-year-old, and then we've got a 4-year-old.
Woo, you got your hands full.
It is wild. Yeah.
So I guess I was at a point that way where Marshawn, he's 3.5 years apart. So I had a 3.5-year-old and a newborn at the same time. So, but is the 1-year-old walking?
Not yet. He's so close. He's still in the phase of I want to crawl and eat everything on the floor, whether it's good for me or not. So I don't know which one is worse, like walking, trying to catch him, or trying to get him not to eat the dog food. But we'll.
or what about fingers into the electrical sockets?
Oh, we love that. Yep, we love that. We also love crawling up to plants and eating soil out of them.
No.
So lots. He'll listen to this later and be like, why did you say it?
Funny, one boy that I had, Marshawn, my oldest, you would have never seen him touch the dirt. Like, he when we put him on the beach for the very first time in Hawaii, and he was probably 13 months old. He was walking already, and he touched the sand, and he freaked out, right? So one would never touch the dirt and, put it in his mouth. The other one, he'd have 2 handfuls of dirt, right? One in the mouth and 2 handfuls still ready to go. So it's the personalities of children are so amazing. That's awesome. Thanks for telling me. But what about She Sells? Tell us a bit about She Sells and your business background.
Absolutely. So I've been in sales longer than I care to admit, but about 20 years now. And I have progressed from corporate sales into running my own company since 2015. And what really inspired me to launch She Sells was having been in the corporate space for quite some time. And I worked my way up the ladder there. And there's more of that story I can unpack about some of the things that that motivated what I do today. But I found that there was so much that was being taught about how we need to show up to be successful in sales that didn't feel aligned. One, for me as a woman, there were also things that I think just for all of us as human beings were being taught that weren't really aligned. And I found myself in my late 20s, top of the leaderboard at work, looking like I was doing really well on the outside, nice house, nice car. And yet inside, there was such a gap and a disparity between how I was presenting on the outside and how I was feeling inside. Inside, struggling with anxiety, panic attacks, eating disorder. I felt so incongruent with how I was showing up on the outside and what I thought I had to do to be successful at sales. I was so much in the grind, hustle, hard close type of mindset because I went through kind of old school sales training and coaching and was conditioned that way. And there were just things that were taught that to me, some of it didn't feel ethical in terms of closing and the sales process and things they would ask us to do for a sale. And then also again, for me as a woman, and I've learned so much since, like for women, our energy cycles are completely different than our male counterparts. So there's actually a week out of every month where we're best poised to be giving presentations. There's a week out of every month where we're best poised for detail work, et cetera. And those weeks, our male counterparts go through those same energy cycles in a couple of hours every day versus us as women, it takes us a full week. And so we find that and that's just one example of many, we're often playing out of a playbook that was never designed for us in the first place. And so I started studying under some really incredible mentors, many of whom were women, and they were making multi-millions, working less time than me, similar industries. And I was like, what are you doing? There's some sort of a gap here between what I've been taught and what you know. And so I started learning things like how to align your sales process with your energy cycles. I started learning things like a more relational, empathetic way of selling. I also went deep down the rabbit hole of neuroscience and the impact of that on our results. And I had a huge quantum leap experience later in my sales, which I can speak to when I really implemented that. But I just found there was a different way to sell and do business, and I was inspired to go coach clients on that. And so I work primarily with women, although we have so many people saying, when are you going to launch He Sells? Because the principles are almost universal. We've got some amazing men in our community. So this is not just for women, but we work primarily with women to help them achieve their sales and business goals in a different way. We are launching another brand this year, which is not specific to women, because we have had so many other people on LinkedIn and clients saying, hey, we want something that's for everyone, which is beautiful and we're excited to do. But we've got clients across the globe, and when people come in and we teach a methodology called the 4 quadrants of quantum sales growth. When they come in and learn it, we have had so many quantum leap experiences with women, being stuck at the same level in corporate for over a decade to, within the space of, a couple of months, tripling, women doubling their income in corporate in as little as 3 weeks, women averaging 10K months, making 270K in 90 days. So there's a lot to unpack there, right? But that's my heart and my mission is we want to help as many clients as possible expand to the fullness of their potential, both in sales and in life, and find a way to sell that feels authentic and aligned to them.
Fantastic. I always ask Elyse, individuals this very special question, and I'll ask you, which is, tell us something nobody knows about you, even if they're looking at any or all of your social profiles.
Yeah, I don't think this is anywhere on social, but I'm a huge dog lover. I love rescue dogs, and there was a good chunk in my 20s where I drove for a pit bull rescue. So it's kind of like an underground railroad for dogs who are on, quote unquote, death row. And you pick these pit bulls up from shelters where they're high kill rate and transport them across state lines. And people always think I'm bigger than I am. I'm 5'3", I'm short, I'm small. So I have had many an experience of driving across state lines, doing a long drive with a pit bull, like sitting on my lap, wanting to lick me and be in the driver's seat the whole time. but it was fun and it felt important and impactful, and we saved a lot of dogs' lives. So that is something you probably wouldn't see on any of my social.
Interesting. So you were actually rehoming them, or when you drove across state lines, or took them from the shelter to wherever, it was finding a home?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
so
Getting them
you
to
were
a
the
place.
transporter.
Transporter. Yep.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I
pretty
know. It
cool.
sounds illegal, but it was actually really, really good work.
Oh, very cool. That's interesting. I didn't find that. And I remembered where I first saw you at. Yeah, can I tell you
Please.
what triggered? I just remembered when you were one of the hosts of Linking into Sales.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
back from 2017, and you had Jill Rowley on the show.
Yeah.
I was sitting here and I was like, God, it's been 7 years. I know where I've seen her before, and I couldn't remember, and it just hit me right now. I remember now. I remember when I first got introduced to you 7 years ago.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking from our pre-chat, we had to have known each other. Yeah, that has been a while. That
Yeah.
has been a while. So yeah, my gosh, my heart broke when Greg passed, and Martin is amazing though, and it's I think that show hopefully helped a lot of people, and it was such an honor to come on. They brought me on. It was my first podcast. Had no idea what I was doing. They were so generous, giving me a platform, and really good guys. So that's so funny. Wow, it's been a while.
Well, there you go. I was like, I've known Elyse for a long time, and I am trying to remember where I first saw her at, and that was the trigger. I just remembered it in my brain. For all of you guys who are just wondering, like, where did Mario just go? Like, you don't in the pre-chat. I was saying in my mind, I know. From there's something back in our past that has brought us back together again. Anyways, there it is. Well, let's get into some meat and potatoes in talking about some of the things related to creating identity. Yeah. A lot of individuals, when we come into sales, we believe that our identity around how well we progress in our career, from rep to manager to director to whatever it might be, or from job to job, is centered around performance and how well I close and how well I make things happen. Now, of course, that's true, right? You got to be a performer to be able to be looked at for any opportunity, period, whether it's inside the company or outside the company. But how does one create identity of who you want to become, especially if you're new in sales? Talk about that.
Absolutely. And if I can back up even and talk about why does this matter, right? I think this is important too. So something that I have really learned, especially over the past 3 years in my own journey, and I'll share a quick story of how I came across this, is your results will never supersede your identity. Your results will never supersede your identity. So what do I mean by that? We can have an aspiration to become a manager. And yet, if we do not consciously see ourselves, and more importantly, subconsciously see ourselves as someone who leads, as someone who makes that amount of money, as someone who has that level of success, you won't do it, or you'll get the promotion and you'll fall off. And so I had my own experience just 3 years ago now that took me down a wild rabbit hole of neuroscience and understanding the power of the subconscious mind, because for over a decade, first in sales and then as an entrepreneur, even with unlimited earnings potential, no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, I always made the same amount of money. And for me, it was right around the six-figure mark. And now this was, Mario, like no social life, getting up at 2 a.m., getting to the office first when I was in sales. And then I've worked remote for a long time, hiring all the right mentors, coaches, leaders, putting all the tactical things into place that should have been moving the needle. Now, there's nothing wrong with making six figures. And that was my first goal when I got out of school. It's like, I want to hit six figures in my sales job. And I did it really fast, but then I plateaued for over a decade. And about 3 years ago, I had an experience that is probably maybe longer than we have time to talk about today, but I finally got fed up. And I've said I want more for my life for a long time. And yet I keep getting the same results year in, year out. And well, I'll just share that I've been reading Bronnie Ware's Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. I don't know if you've ever read that book. It's a super powerful book. She was a hospice worker, And she sat on deathbeds with people and heard their biggest regrets. And she said there's 5 most common regrets at the end of people's lives. And the first regret that she shared that was most common was, I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to me rather than what everyone else expected of me. And it's interesting you brought up linking into sales, because that was right around like Greg had passed, I think, a few years before. But that was still on my mind. And I kind of looked around at my life and realized how much I was saying someday, and how much I had bigger aspirations, that I wanted to make more money to be able to do things like retire my husband, who was a night shift respiratory therapist. We had our first son was 4 months old at the time, and it was hard to, for him to see him and do stuff with him because of that. And he wanted to go to medical school and pursue his passion, and we needed to make more money for that. I wanted to have bigger influence. I wanted to speak on bigger stages. I wanted to build a bigger company. And yet, no matter what I did, I found myself always making the same amount of money and consistently in partnerships, which were really great and with amazing people, but where I was kind of behind the scenes. And really my heart was, I want to lead from the front. And so I was reading this book and I said, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to stop putting my life on layaway. I'm going to stop saying someday. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of this rut I've been in for over 10 years and figure out how to start living the life that I would actually be proud that I have lived at the end of my life. And I don't know about you, but I feel like asking the universe delivers. And and I promise I will tie this in with identity moment and what people can do to craft the identity that they need to create the results they want. But the universe delivered. And a couple of days later, I was listening to a podcast of a woman who coached moms to become millionaires. And I was a new mom, but I was like, I want to be a millionaire. That's exactly what I've said I want to do for 10 years. What do I need to do? And so she happens to say on the episode, she's got a space for a private coaching client. So I'm like, all right, universe, I'll bite. And we get on the discovery call. It's yes, 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 yes. And then I find out the investment for coaching is $50,000 for 6 months. And now, yeah. So whatever amount of money you're making right now, I just want you to think about if you had an opportunity that felt like you had to do it. You knew in your soul you had to do it, but it was going to take half the money you had made the previous year, and you hadn't been putting that away for savings, and you're the breadwinner for your family. But there was a soul knowing that I needed to do it, that intuition. And so I figured out a way to put the deposit on a credit card, had no idea what I was going to do about the rest, in absolute utter fear that I just put my family in financial jeopardy. And I said yes, because I knew that it would get me so out of my comfort zone to even be able to figure out how to pay for the rest of my coaching, let alone do anything else, that I would have to become the person who no longer put life on layaway. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I, for over a decade, again, had dealt with a lot of anxiety, fear about money, sales, even though, again, I was top of the leaderboard, outwardly doing well. Inside, I was nervous about a lot of it. And I knew it would bring all that to the forefront, so I'd have to deal with it. So I wish I could say it all changed immediately. It didn't. In fact, for 3 weeks after that, I went into a period of what I would call pure hell, the darkness, where I was faced with every limiting belief I'd ever had about money, what I was capable of, what was possible for me. I was doing things that were so far outside the comfort zone of the old version of me. I launched a group program. That was something I had limiting beliefs about. Can I launch a group program? Well, a whole group of women want to work with me. I was singing publicly on social media because my coach challenged me to do that. I hadn't done that in a long time. And I was so nervous, and she got me out of my comfort zone with it. And I did it. But in 6 weeks of going through that, I would say, like, very, very focused, do or die, like burn the ships, you got to change type of thing, and really starting to understand the impact of the old beliefs I was holding about myself and the old identity that I was holding on to versus who I would need to become to be successful in this scenario. In 6 weeks, I went from having been stuck at the same level for over a decade to 10xing my income and turning my annual income into my monthly income. And what I will say with that is It wasn't about working harder. It was I literally became a new person. I stepped into a new self-concept. And so when I say, and I've looked back at it to say, how did that happen so fast? And that's where I've been fortunate to study under and work with and study under great neuroscientists and great leaders in this space to understand what happened and what changed, because I've been trying so hard for so long and then it happened. So when I say our results will never supersede our identity, all of us have a set point for how much money we think we're worthy of making, the type of, I was just working with a group before this call on this, the type of opportunities we are or are not comfortable receiving, the how much visibility we're comfortable with. Got so many stories of clients in the community who have held back because of that, and then they fix this and they get promotions, roles, etc. And so if we want to create a different kind of result in our sales or in our career, according to neuroscience, 95 to 98% of our results come from our subconscious programs, which were most of them instilled in our head between the ages of 0 to 7, when we don't have a conscious mind formed yet. So in those ages, you're basically under hypnosis. Your brainwaves are in delta and then theta state, which is the same brainwave pattern that someone is in when they're being hypnotized. So everything you hear, you take in, your brain takes that in, and it forms a pattern, a belief system, a neural pathway that says this is true. So rich people are greedy, money is the root of all evil, little girls should be seen and not heard, little boys don't cry. Whatever we heard, we take that in, and that forms the pattern through which we see the world, unless and until later in life we change it. And by the age of 35, 95% of our brain is a hardwired set of patterns, unless and until we change it.
Wait, what age did you say that happened? The
35.
hardwired? 35?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it takes that long before it actually becomes hardened?
Hardwired it, yeah. But here's I know, right? So the great thing about this is you can change it. Anyone can change it. There's a way to change it, and something we teach, and I'm happy to talk through it on the podcast too. But the power of this is that if you can get your subconscious mind to accept a new belief system about yourself, maybe money's the easiest thing in the world to make, or I'm a natural born leader, right? Or clients love buying from me, right? We think about all the things that would be supportive to think in sales and sales leadership. Once your subconscious mind accepts that new belief, the whole job of the subconscious is to make the belief systems the reality. So I'll stop because I don't want to get too sciencey for anyone who's not into it, but the part of the brain, the reticular activating system, there's a filter in your brain that actually filters out any information that doesn't align with your belief system of what you deem to be true about the world. So the subconscious mind controls that. So once we get the subconscious mind to accept the fact that money is easy to make, it's great and easy for me to be successful. It's for a lot of people, they don't actually feel safe being successful. It's safe for me to be successful. It's safe to be seen. Whatever the program is that we want to instill, then the subconscious goes to work making that your reality. It's just most people. So it's designed to be the servant, making whatever we're thinking about consistently our reality. Most people just don't know how to manage it. So that was a long answer, and I can give you some first steps for someone who says, how do I shift my identity? But you may have some follow-up questions from that first.
Well, I guess I got the how to create the identity, and I think I understand your why, but I guess what I don't understand is why does anybody, maybe at what point do you know that you've got to shift this identity, and that you've got to be able to start saying, hey, I'm not the person who I want to be, and the person that I want to become is this, from a sales standpoint, right? Like, I mean, from a personal standpoint, maybe, you look back and you're like, oh, I was too hard on my kids, right? Or something like that, right? And you start making adjustments. They always say, as a parent, you get better as a parent as you have more kids, although it just drives you more crazy, but
you probably stop controlling so much. I'm realizing that with my second now. I'm like, just let him go.
Let him go. Just let it go.
Yep.
Like, they'll figure it out. Like, don't worry. And also too, that becomes because we're tired. But
yeah, exactly.
But we we can see that on the personal level, but on the business level, I'm trying to see, like, when would I know this? When would I want to? when do I know that it's time to start saying I've got to be somebody different, or I need to be this, which is the person that I want to become? What are the triggers for that?
I think it's a great question. So here's what I would say. First, I think a lot of people get stuck and complacent in sales too, especially at a certain level. We've got a program we teach called Meet the $1 Million You, because a lot of people get stuck at like 6 figures, multi-six, and then they're complacent and they're comfortable. And I don't believe we are meant to live life complacent and comfortable. I believe we are meant to continuously expand. But a lot of times we stop thinking about a new vision. We stop thinking higher for ourselves because we've met or exceeded the level of success that we saw demonstrated growing up or of most of our peer group, and we stop growing. And I don't know about you, but for me, if I'm not growing, I'm dying, right? And I think we're all wired that way. So the first thing I would say is we want to be consistently aiming for a new vision, not out of where I am isn't good, but out of, I want to expand, right? The desire I have for myself is I want to live the fullness of who I am, the fullest potential of who I am in all areas, including sales and business. And so we want to have that clear vision of where we're going, and we want to keep setting a higher vision so that we can keep growing into that. I think that's part of the purpose of life. With that, you will always have to become someone new when you set a new vision. There will always be some resistance to that new level because you haven't reached it yet. So there will be limiting beliefs. Let's say I was just working with a group of women who are at the 6-figure level who want to go from 10K months to 50K months. And one of the women was saying, yeah, like I noticed there's a lot of gaps in my beliefs about hitting 50K months and what's possible for me. I said, of course, you haven't done it yet, but it doesn't mean we can't create a new belief system for you that's going to empower you to do that. So if we're dedicated to evolving, there's always going to be more identity work that's done along the path in life and in sales. But what I would say is, if you're clear on the vision and you've been going at it for any amount of time, and it feels hard, it doesn't feel like it's flowing, you feel stuck, it feels hard, that's a clear indicator to me that there is some sort of a belief system running the show that's telling you what you want isn't possible for you. This can be with our sales results. This can be with our business and company growth. Maybe someone who's going from solopreneur to hiring new team members. They don't see themselves as a leader yet. They keep having turnover with their people, right? There's a million applications for this in the sales and business world. But my short answer to that would be, I think we all should always be looking at this and working on this. I actually do it every day for myself. But that's kind of how you know that there's a limiting belief, is you're going for a goal. It's feeling hard. It feels like it's not coming. You're like, there's something there. Because again, once the subconscious mind accepts the belief, we still got to create it, right? We still got to take action, but it's not going to feel hard anymore. It's going to feel exciting and like, oh yeah, I see how this is possible. And you feel like there's momentum towards it. Does that make sense how I explained it?
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of when I actually sat in the seat in the leadership role. And I feel bad because I haven't done this in quite, well, actually, it's been definitely over 5 or 6 years as the CEO of my own company. And I don't know why I got out of the habit of doing this. And so now that I'm talking myself back into this, the team that's actually listening, that this is probably going to happen here. So actually, in all my leadership roles, every year at the beginning of the year, we would present what's called our why boards. And there was an entire structure of that why board, which was all around identifying who you were today and who you wanted to be tomorrow. And then putting a plan in place that, and maybe there's certain things that I could help the individual achieve and some things that I couldn't help, right? So maybe if it was something like, be a better son to my mom, who's sick and this, that, there's certain things that I can't do, but I could say, I could be oh my God, what's it called? Accountability partner. I could be an accountability partner as a leader and say, how you doing with your mom, right? If I knew that, right? Or if you wanted me to be that, to take that role. But on the business side, we could impact that. For example, we had everybody document every year the things that they wanted to achieve. Now, this could have been a monetary goal. This could be a things achievement of things. It could be more time. It could be, and you fill in the blank, or it could be all of them. And in some cases, some people had some really amazing goals that they wanted to achieve that I didn't even know about. So as we got down into, this is hard, or we're running into a roadblock, then as a leader, I could turn around and say, you remember your whiteboard? You remember you wanted to be able to get that, whatever, I'm just going to make something up, that boat, right? In order for you to be able to take your son out and have this something that you never had with your dad. That's why you're doing this. Go back at it and keep doing it. Now, on my whiteboard, interestingly enough, I had always documented for many years 2 paths that I wanted to be either a chief sales officer, chief revenue officer, or I wanted to be able to be on a main stage speaking. And that had actually been on my whiteboard before I got into the role of speaking on the main stage. And so when the opportunity presented itself to be able to start my own company, I thought, oh, well, I can get to that, quote, C-suite pretty darn fast. And I could create my own path by becoming a speaker and speaking on the main stage, and now becoming a sales social media influencer. So this was interesting that I had this as a goal, and I kept it in front of me every single year. I reevaluated those goals and those whys. Why am I doing this? So that I can move the cheese every year when I achieve something to be able to make myself better. All right, long-winded explanation to say, those are some of the things that you're talking about when you look at who you are, what you've become, and where you want to be. You're looking at, okay, how do I move the cheese? How do I move it to the next goal line to be able to achieve something? Is that what we're talking about when we start saying we need to change the identity?
Yes. And I would go a step further with it. So yes, absolutely. So first it's, who do I want to, what do I want to do and why? Right. So I love the why board. I think we have to have a vision that's compelling enough that gets us out of the complacency, the old emotional addictions, the old paradigm, right? So we have to have that driver, I'm going to get the boat, right? I'm going to have these experiences with my family. And where I think a lot of people can have something on a vision board or have a goal on that they're looking at every day and feel frustrated because they're like, why am I not achieving this? Is they haven't taken it a step further to look at, well, who is the person who has that? So we do an exercise with our clients when they come into our community called new personality versus old personality. And so Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Our personality is comprised of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And our personality determines our personal reality. So if we want to create a new personal reality, we have to actually literally shift our personality. And so most people aren't aware that they may want abundance. They may want the boat. They may want to be on the President's Club trip. But if all day long they're walking around thinking there's not enough sales, I'm not good enough, that's not in alignment with what someone would be thinking who had achieved those things. And so we have to get aware of the thoughts that we're thinking all day long that are actually holding us back from what we want, because these things happen unconsciously without us even being aware of it. So what we do is we look at the goal, we get a really clear vision of what's the goal, what's your why, right? I love the why board. So what's on the why board? And then from there, we want to start thinking from the end versus of the end. So when we think from the end, we say, I'm already there. Now that I'm here, now that I have this boat, now that I won this trip, now that I'm top of the leaderboard, what thoughts am I thinking? Man, I'm proud of myself. Wow, I'm so grateful for life. Wow, how am I going to service all these clients? Right? Think about, what would you be thinking from that standpoint?
I would say, oh, I'm so amazing. No,
I'm so amazing. Yes, I love that. I'm so amazing, right? And truly think about, what would you be thinking about while you're driving the boat? We drive boats, right? I'm not a huge boat. Drive the boat, right? So what would you be sailing the boat? There you go. What would we be thinking about? And then from there, what feelings would I be feeling from this place? And we don't realize that we actually get addicted to lower level feelings, anxiety, fear, doubt, depression, because they release a lot of cortisol in our bodies. And so we get addicted to these, and we can't think higher than our emotional state. And so part of the process is actually training people how to feel better, how to get past that old addiction to anxiety, how to get past the self-doubt, et cetera, so that they can start feeling the way they think they're going to feel when their future happens. And then we look at, what actions would someone be taking who's accomplished that goal? I would be writing thank you notes to each of my clients. I would be showing up on time every day. I'd be waking up with the alarm. I'd be doing this, doing that. So we get clear on who is the person who has that result, because in life, we don't get what we want. We get what we are. So again, this is where people get vision boards, all that stuff messed up, because they think, oh, I just put it on the vision board and I look at it, but I don't have to change. No, you have to change. So we get that mapped out. Then with massive awareness and no judgment, we're going to start taking note of where's the gap? Where am I not currently showing up as that person? What thoughts am I thinking on repeat every single day that I wouldn't be thinking if I were there? So again, those are just old neural pathways that you've thought long enough that your brain fires a thought down it really fast. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it has to keep being your reality. What feelings am I feeling every day that I don't want to feel anymore, that I wouldn't be feeling if I was there? And what actions am I taking that I wouldn't be taking if the end result was accomplished? I'm holding back from pitching. I'm not sending out proposals quickly. I'm not putting my hand in for the promotion, whatever, right? So we just want to get clear on that. And then the game, Mario, is every single day you're reviewing that list and you're asking yourself, who am I going to be today? And you're going to start practicing noticing when the thought shows up. That's the old thought that you would be thinking from the President's Club trip, and you change it, you say, no, change. And then you think the new thought. You're going to start practicing. There's a process we use to teach clients how to feel higher level emotions, and you're going to start taking different actions. And then because all of our actions are just a byproduct, all of our results are just a byproduct of who we're being, it's just a matter of time. If you keep being that person, the results will shift. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I think it's the hardest work any of us can do, because it takes a massive level of self-awareness. But this is why, if you look at your sales team, if you're a leader, there's consistently some people who are at the top, some people who are in the middle, some people are at the bottom. People at the bottom and maybe in the middle don't want to be there. They want to be higher. But guess what? They've got a set point that this is how much money I make. They've got a set point that says, it's normal for me to not be successful. It's normal for me to be bottom of the pack. So if you can empower them to actually shift their self-concept, and then think about empowering your high achievers to think way higher for themselves, what would it do for the company? So this is the impact of this work. And this is, I think, the foundation of any successful sales approach. So I just talked a lot. I'll turn it back to you, because I could go on and on.
Well, let's talk about how this all comes together when we're talking about increasing our sales numbers. Because then everybody who's listening in, the ultimate goal is whatever we want to achieve, we know we're going to achieve it if we hit our goals or exceed our goals. In this case, our sales quota, our sales numbers, right? So what are some of the hidden keys, or what is the hidden key to increasing sales numbers? And I want to do it now. Like, how do I make that happen?
Yeah. So I would say you start being that person now. So again, whatever the number is that you want to hit, take the time to map out who and figure out who is the person who does that. So we want to start getting clear on who will I need to be in order to do that. So thoughts, feelings, actions, right? And then you start doing it now. So it's not going to be, this is how you know you're not on track. You're doing more of the same things. If you do more of the same things, you're going to get more of the same result. If you want a quantum leap, and I'm talking not like 2% growth, 5% growth, I'm talking about my experience, 10xing in 6 weeks. I'm talking about experience of clients in the community. You're going to have to do something very different. You're going to have to show up as a different person. So what you want to do is you want to first get a very clear picture of who is the person who has that result. Then we've got a short amount of time here, but in a nutshell, you can write down a very clear, vivid description of that end result. You actually speak it out loud. You record yourself saying it. Listen to it 2 times a day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. This is part of how we reprogram our subconscious mind to accept the idea. From there, once you know your mind has accepted the idea because you can think about it. And even though it hasn't happened yet, it feels natural. It's like, yeah, I could see that happening. You don't feel resistance. It doesn't feel hard or big anymore. From there, you pay attention. What are the ideas I'm getting? Who am I feeling called to reach out to? You'll get an idea for an action, a pitch you could do. And it's like, ooh, that feels stretchy. That feels uncomfortable. I wouldn't normally reach out to that type of prospect. Do it. you have to, I call it following the nudges. So I know this sounds a little, it may not sound super concrete. The work, the part about reprogramming the subconscious is the most important piece. And then from there, you follow the nudges. And you can also ask yourself, if you're like, I want to take an action today, obviously if you're serious about what I said, like record the script, listen to it. But then also think about what actions would someone take who hits that number, right? What type of prospects would they be reaching out to? How confident would they be in their approach? What would be different about what I'm doing? And then you start practicing that. Your mind will give you resistance. It'll give you reasons it can't happen. It'll tell you they're not going to want to hear from you. Those are the limiting beliefs. You write those down. You just become aware of those. And you start to, that's why having the new beliefs, writing down what are the thoughts of me at this end goal is so important. So you can start conditioning the mind to new beliefs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So net of it is be the person you want to be now. Start being that person you want to be now. And but to do that, you need to know what those goals are. You need to know what you're going to achieve. You need to know who that person you want to be is. You talk about superhuman selling, and I'm curious. First off, how did this become your brand, and what is it?
Yeah, for sure. So when I look back at how I went from stuck and struggling for so long, and when I say struggling, I was doing okay. I was doing by most people's standards well, but for me, it wasn't where I wanted to be, to having such a quantum leap experience. I was like, how did it happen so fast? And I reverse engineered the process and broke it down into something that we now teach called the 4 quadrants of quantum sales growth. And we can actually create a free training for your listeners if you like, and link it in the show notes, a deeper dive training into this. But in essence, it's a lot of what we talked about today. So the first quadrant is mind over matter, which is literally how to reprogram your mind to impact the physical 3D world around you. The second is all about money. So we all have a financial set point. We all have an amount of money we're comfortable making every month. We can raise that intentionally. So if you want your team to start performing way higher, think about them getting way more comfortable, making way more money, and they will start doing that. The third is going to sound a little out there. It was out there for me until I started studying with some really incredible mentors who taught me the mechanics of this. It's how do we integrate masculine and feminine into our sales and business processes? So again, that could be a whole separate conversation. Some people feel weird about those words when it comes to sales. What I mean by that is it's the being and the doing. It's the being and the doing. We all have both types of energies that we can work with within us to accomplish our goals. And this is about tapping into flow state. It's about structure. It's about systems. It's also about relational sales process. There's a lot of elements to it, but we call that quadrant masculine and feminine. And then the fourth is the method. So this is the strategic tactical method that we're going to layer on top of that really solid foundation of those first 3. This is why I was so impressed with everything that you all have built. And I was telling you ahead of time in the pre-chat, oh my gosh, it's incredible what you've done. You talk about layering an incredible message, what you've got on top of that foundation of someone feeling successful, worthy, you're unstoppable. And those are the 4 quadrants. So again, we'd be more than happy to provide a link for your listeners to do a deeper dive training into that, because there's a lot more to unpack there. But that's superhuman selling.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have a chance to put that into the show notes. So anybody who's watching this, you'll just want to go to vingresso.com and look for the podcast that is with Elyse Archer. You could also put in flymsg.io. And Elyse, we're coming up on time here, so I would love to just ask you a couple more questions, and that is, if someone wanted to connect with you, what's the best way? Is it through email, LinkedIn, Twitter? You tell us.
Thank you so much for asking. This is such a privilege. I would say my website is a great place to go, ElyseArcher.com. I'm at Elyse Archer on all social, and honestly, emailing me is fine. Elyse@ElyseArcher.com is probably the best way to connect about anything we talked about today.
And just so you have the spelling, it's ELYSE Archer. Sounds like you should know how to spell it, but just in case, ARCHER. And Elyse, I have one very special question. Last one, and that is your all-time favorite movie. What is it?
Oh my gosh, I know. So I'm not a huge movie person, so I don't feel like I'm going to have an epic answer for you here. I will say I was watching Encanto last night with my kids, and I did have a good tear during parts. I thought there's some really good life lessons in this.
I
So,
loved that movie. Now there's an Encanto. Is it number 2 coming out? I think it
oh,
is.
is there? I didn't
Ye-
know that. I'm
yes,
excited.
it's forthcoming. It's worth. I assume you were watching it on Disney Plus.
We were. Oh yeah, we're
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
We finally succumbed.
So I just found something out on Disney Plus with the subscription that I have on Disney Plus. If you go to the Hulu, what is it called? Thumbnail, you actually get Hulu now. And so I've been paying Hulu, whatever it is, my $6.99 a month. I'm going to go cancel that Hulu subscription because I get it directly through the Disney Plus subscription, of which they didn't tell me. They've always been trying to upsell me for, but now I got it there. So anyways, go click on the Hulu and you might actually see that you've got Hulu and you don't need to pay it for 2 places on Disney and on Hulu.
That is a good discovery. I love that so much.
Well, Elyse, thank you so much for joining us here on the Modern Selling Podcast. For all of you listening in right now, hey, are you interested in saving 25 hours a month in productivity? You want to prospect better, sell more, and engage with your target buyer? Make sure you go to flymsg.io. Get out there and download Fly Message today and start the 14-day free Sales Pro trial. And don't turn that dial quite yet. We've got this very important message for you right now. Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to save 20 hours or more in a month and increase your productivity, go right now and download Fly Message, that's flymsg.io, for free. It's your free text expander and personal writing assistant. Hey, thanks for listening in, and until the next episode, good selling.